Hi, everybody. Welcome along to episode 35 of Percussion Discussion. Hope you're all happy out there. Before we get started, please check out our social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course, our YouTube channel where you can find all of the interviews. So if you wouldn't mind subscribing to that, that would be fantastic. This will make sure you don't miss any of the great upcoming interviews that we've got or any of the fabulous ones that we've already done. On to today's guest, another remarkable drummer, a gentleman with a huge career behind him. But for the last chunk of his career, he's been providing the funk for the incredible Chic with Nile Rodgers. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Ralph Rolle.
I'm glad to be here with you, Maddie.
Well, no, it's great. It's the pleasure is all mine. Trust me. So it's a bit of a strange time at the moment. We're in the middle, hopefully towards the end of a pandemic. How have you been doing? Have you been keeping busy?
Yes, very busy. Not so much
drumming
as I've been working with my other businesses.
Yeah. Sure.
I've just been like inundated with just stuff for the restaurant and the cookie company.
Yeah.
So that's been it's been cool, but there's not a lot of playing to do. I've been just trying to stay on top of just getting some work going. I think everybody's trying to figure it out.
Sure. Sure. Well, hey, look, let's start with the restaurant, because it's great to see somebody branching out into other things, and you've got all sorts going on with the cookies. And tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the cookies started many years ago in the 90s, actually. I've always baked as a kid. I just followed behind my grandmother and my mother. And being a shy kid, I was trying to figure out a way that I could talk to girls. So I would bake them some cookies or make a little cupcake or something like that. And, oh, that's so cute. You're so nice. And I just kept, baking in the kitchen. And some years later, when my girlfriend moved in, we decided to have gifts for the holidays. We had 36 friends and family. And so I said, why don't we just make the cookies? Because we can't really afford to give 36 gifts. And she said, yeah. So we baked the cookies. We went and put them in these tins, and we gave them out. We called them ghetto cookies because both of us grew up in the projects. So, and she graduated from Juilliard, and at the time I was working at the Apollo. And our friends, they thought it was funny, but it was the birth of the company. Everyone loved the product and said, I think you guys should really think about doing a business. So we did. And now fast forward from 1996 to 2021, I have a factory, and, we bake for big clients like JP Morgan Chase. And we're in the process as I speak. There's a food scientist at my place, and we're developing cookies for a Walmart presentation that's coming up in June.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, and then I'm actually talking to someone in the UK that works with doing the traffic for some of your biggest stores like M&S, Sainsbury, Waitrose.
Yep.
So they're talking about wanting to bring us over there, but Brexit and COVID has held everything up. So
of course,
we'll get to it.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I mean, are you still quite hands-on with the making of them and stuff? With designing them and the recipes and what have you.
Now it's more of me doing the tasting. My wife is the one that handles everything now because my schedule doesn't give me the day-to-day hands-on. So she's kind of taken over the duties, and she's really good. And my daughter, she's the ultimate taste tester.
Yeah.
She's freaking brutal. You think you might have something great, and she'll be like, no, just like that, no. So so we'll go back to the drawing board and come up with something else, and then finally, when her taste buds like it, then it's worth the public liking it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Incredible. It's great to have this other side of you, the whole other life going on, outside of music, especially at the moment when music is it's a luxury, isn't it, that a lot of people can't use at the moment, especially live stuff.
It's taught us a lot. about our tenacity, about our strength, and our true passion for what we're doing.
Mm.
Most musicians, most drummers that I'm in touch with are all trying to do a reinvention because there's no real live playing. Like, Brian Dunn has a great recording setup at the house. Some other drummers are all, teaching online, and, some drummers are doing some consultation sessions and stuff. And then a couple of friends of mine have gotten into other areas. I have one of my friends started a peanut brittle company some years ago, and it's good. He sent it to me, and another friend of mine he's a drummer. He started like a garnish, like a sauce, a little sauce that you throw on steaks and stuff.
Yeah.
So, it just kind of shows the amount of talent that we have, and now we're starting to exercise those talents.
Yeah.
In big ways, and I really appreciate that. I'm always trying to help them along. I don't know if you know Herman Matthews or Abe Fogel.
I know the name very well. Yes.
Yeah, they both have started their food ventures, and at some point, I'm going to try to find all the musicians I can and put them on one website.
Yes.
And so we can all sell our products together.
That's a great idea.
I have a bass player in New York. His name is Matt. He's got a great T-shirt business that he's doing, and it's a great T-shirt. All it says is "musicians are essential."
Yeah, and
it's selling like crazy. So so I appreciate that avenue when people just don't allow the situation or the moment to crack them, if you will.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that it's brought us, many of us, even closer together because we are looking for support. Some of us are vocal about it, some of us are quiet, but we're all kind of reaching out to each other to just show support.
Absolutely. It's a great thing. And while it's no picnic being in a pandemic, it has brought qualities out in people, which is a good thing. So
yeah, it really has given people a chance to see themselves in a different way. And that's a good thing. And for me personally, the biggest and most important thing about the pandemic is that if people globally do not see now that we are all connected, then they'll never get it.
Yeah. Exactly.
We are all connected. It has nothing to do with our pigmentation. It has to do with our love for life and passion for each other and empathy for the next person.
Yeah.
And if we don't, I swear, if we don't get it now, we'll never get it. We'll just never get it.
Truth. Yeah. Well, wise words, Ralph. Wise words, even. Well, look, hey, let's go back 1 or 2 years. Well, let's go back maybe a couple of years. Where did it all begin? Where did the love of drums come from for yourself?
I started. I have an older brother. He's about 8 years older than me. And when we were kids, he was my hero. My father wasn't around, so my brother was the guy that I looked up to for everything. And him and I used to. His name was Howard Rolle, and we used to. It used to call it wrestling back in the day. It wasn't wrestling; it was wrestling.
Right.
We used to wrestle, and my brother was a tinkerer. He was always doing something to get in trouble with our mother. And he was the one that brought the drums in the house. And just because he did it, I did it. Whatever he did, I did.
Yeah.
Everything. So one day the drums showed up and it was in our little bedroom right in the middle of 2 beds. And I was like, oh my God, drums. And sometimes his friends would come over and they would play, different instruments. And I just wanted to do what he did. So I sat down, I started playing. He said, listen, you can play the drums, but you can't switch them around because you're left-handed.
Yeah,
so just sit down and play. So I started playing a right-handed set like this with the ride cymbal over here, you know.
Yeah.
I think my hand kind of disappeared just now, but I think you get it.
It's okay.
And the first song that I remember playing is "She Loves You, Yeah" by the Beatles.
Yeah.
You know, I had seen Ringo and on the Ed Sullivan Show, so I was about 6 years old. And the thing that I love, I just want to meet the guy, you know, just to tell him thank you.
Mm.
But the thing that I loved about Ringo is he kind of set me on the path of having fun in the moment.
Yeah.
You know, he looked like he was having the best time of his life. And I always remembered that. I always remembered that joy that he had and the smiling and just, you know, just in getting into it. And that's how I got started. I started just, you know, playing other people's, you know, stuff, and Ringo was a big influence on me.
Yeah. So aside from Ringo, any other big names or anybody?
Yeah. When I was a kid, there used to be a show on the it was Channel 13 was our public kind of public not public access, but it was like it had all the educational shows like later on shows like Sesame Street,
Right,
and Zoom and the Electric Company, and you know these were all, they might have some of the shows in the UK that were adapted,
sure.
but they used to have a show called Soul, and Soul had some of the baddest like bands live on there, you know, and I would watch these guys, and you know they would have like the modern jazz quartet, and you know then you know Max Roach would be on, and then Art Blakey would be on, and I would watch these guys and go, man, you know. So my early influences came from watching these guys, Buddy Rich, you know, just incredible players, you know, Lionel Hampton. A lot of people don't know he plays drums.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what kind of got me. So watching those guys in the early days just kind of set me on a path of what the possibilities were. You know, yeah. Really, really cool stuff, you know.
Amazing. So you mentioned left-handed now, because one of the points I'd put down was that you play open-handed. Is that from, that's comes from being a left-handed drummer learning a la Ringo on a right-handed kit?
Right, exactly. It was my brother actually who said, don't change the drums around. And I was like, left, the hi-hat on the left. And then what happened later on is I started to realize that it was an advantage to play open-handed, because when you're in local bands, and we're all played in local bands, we would do a lot of R&B stuff. And I had at the time, just a clap machine on my left side. So I would have to groove and play that clap machine on the left side, and then do tom fills and all this stuff, not realizing that I was setting myself up for other things, you know. So now it's like, okay, you could do that. So, okay, do hit the clap, and then now play wind chimes in there, you know, get it in the right spot. And then you do a drum fill, you hit the wind chimes. And even, you know, one of my favorite local guys who's amazing is a guy named Bernard Davis. I would go and watch him, and he was not only the drummer, but he was the percussionist too. Yeah. And the other guy that I got a chance to watch that did that just opened up my brain, was Dennis Chambers. You know, I've watched Dennis do like the most ill timbali fills while holding down these amazing freaking grooves and tight. And I'm like, you know, when I saw Bernard, I'm like, that's what I want to do that. Yeah. When I saw Dennis, I'm like, I'm not worthy. I got, you know. So now when I'm playing, I can, you know, play all of these different things, you know. And then the next thing that came in was the singing part. Yes. So now I'm playing percussion, I'm playing drums, and I'm singing. And you know, I just took it as kind of second nature to do. But I realized that I had to build up to it. But it wasn't until other people came to me and they would go, how do you do that? And I would basically go, I don't know. I just do it. I mean, there's a lot of guys that do it, but when other people look at you and they don't do it, they're looking at you like, well, how did you, the brain is supposed to only handle one function at a time. And for drummer, when drummers hear that, it's like, what are you talking about? that is, get out of here. That doesn't even make sense. It's like, not to us. So, that's kind of how the left hand thing kind of worked out to be good.
Yeah, because you don't see many open-handed players these days. Simon Phillips, perhaps is one of them who's mastered the whole thing. So do you have a ride cymbal up on the left as well, or is your ride?
Yeah, I do.
You do, yeah.
Yeah. My ride cymbal is almost right over, almost where your cymbal is behind you.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Is where my ride cymbal is, and then I used to have my ride closer to an almost over tom 1.
Okay.
Until I saw a drummer named Rayford Griffin.
Okay.
Rayford Griffin used to play with a lot of folks, and he was the drummer for Cameo.
Oh right.
Yeah. Rayford's done a lot of fusion stuff too. I mean, ridiculous drummer. But I had got called to play with Cameo, and I was replacing Rayford. And so I went down. They flew me down to Atlanta, and I'm learning this stuff. And then, like on the third day, Rayford comes back because his tour with George Duke and I think it was Philip Bailey got canceled.
Right.
So I got a chance to see him do the show, and he took the ride that I had and he moved it over on almost over the hi-hat.
Yeah.
Which brought 2 cymbals over the toms, and I'm like, oh, I like that. So that's when my ride moved over about almost a foot to the left.
Yeah.
Which it's been there ever since, and that's because of Rayford Griffin.
Superb.
Yeah.
So did you get to play Word Up then?
I did. Actually, Larry Blackman was the one that sat down, and I used some of Larry's style when I'm playing with Chic. Like there's a song that we play called "Soup for One," and what is the song? Not Word Up. It's the other one. Single Life.
Yes, I do.
It's a very quarter note driving song with the hi-hat, very almost rude in its approach, because he's hitting the hi-hat so hard but tight. And when we do Soup for One, that beat I adapted for that song, and it sounds really cool to use that Larry Blackman approach.
Yeah. So
I teach Larry Blackman's approach when I'm doing, my classes, to show that that's another style. And what happened with playing, with Larry and playing the songs, is I realized that there's so much more that you can do with the hi-hat, and sound with the hi-hat that will expose your groove to another place.
Yeah.
So yeah, playing that stuff with Larry. Sorry I didn't get the gig because Rayford came back. but those 3 days was definitely a learning process that I loved and I still use to this day.
Yeah, amazing band with a great back catalogue of songs, and as funky as it gets, I have to say, it really is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So you've been gigging around, I guess, with local bands. At what point did you turn professional? Did you have a music education, Ralph, or were you?
No, my music, as far as trap set, the answer is no. I never had a teacher.
Yeah.
Per se. I would watch the guys in the neighborhood, because in my neighborhood, growing up in Bronx River houses in the projects, at the time when I grew up, music was still in the education system in America.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, it wasn't taken out until President Ronald Reagan came along, which was so odd because he was an entertainer. So the endowment programs for the arts was eliminated, and the music programs at many schools, especially in the urban areas, just disappeared.
Yeah.
Which, in my personal opinion, it was the worst thing that could have ever happened. you know, and it, I think it changed the direction on a lot of people's lives because music, as you know, can really help you to focus.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily, when I was around 15 years old, I was exposed to drum corps.
Ah, right.
There's a guy in my neighborhood named Jerry Horde, you know, we're still great friends to this day. But it was a Sunday, and he was outside of my building. I lived on the third floor, and there was a fence outside, and I heard sticks on the fence. So obviously, I just was like, okay, somebody's playing something. I got to go look. So Jerry was playing on the fence. So I said, yo, wait, what's going on? He said, we're going to drum corps practice. I'm like, he says, you want to go? And I went, yeah. Luckily, my mother, she picked all of my friends. And the reason why she let me go with him is because Jerry's mother, Mrs. Horde, and my mother both were on the tenants association. So they knew each other. So he was safe. So I ended up going to drum corps. And as soon as I got there, the drum corps bug bit me. And I've been hooked ever since. I love drum corps.
Really?
So I learned all of my, love drum corps. I think it's such a great activity for young people. And it's been a saving grace for a lot of us to keep us out of the street, especially in the urban communities. Some of the best players I know come out of, you know, the urban areas.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that there's not great players coming out of other places, but some of the drummers that I've come up with are amazing players. So that's how I learned my rudiments. And it was great for me to apply because I always wanted to play drums, to apply it to the set, because now you kind of know with your hands what to do to get what you're thinking and apply it to the kit, you know. And it worked. It was good. Drum corps worked for me. And, you know, listening to all of the genres that you and I grew up with, we're the best, we're the luckiest generation ever.
Yeah.
With all the musical genres that we've been exposed to at the same exact time.
Totally agree.
So it was those influences that got me to play, because my thing was I didn't have a drum set, so I would go to other people's houses and play until they threw me out. But one of the biggest influences that I had in my neighborhood is a drummer named Ricky Williams. Ricky Williams, big dude, about 6'5". And for some reason, I was the only person that Ricky would let come into his house and watch him play or just hang out with him. And his groove was ridiculous. I think just analyzing it, what made his groove so much different than everyone else that I heard in the neighborhood was Ricky was blind.
Right.
So I think that helped him to hear better.
Yeah.
Because he's always using his ears to hone in on things. So the way how he grew between kick, snare, and hi-hat sounded like no one else. The only other person at that time that came close to that kind of grooving sound is my friend Artie, who lived across the street. He had a great groove too. But Ricky Williams' groove was masterful. You know, and when I dissected it and figured it out, it had everything to do with now what I teach in my classes is the blend between the kick, snare, and hi-hat.
Yeah.
And this is how you sonically make that all work to get it right. And some of the greatest drummers I know figured that out. They figured out how to get the dimensions between the kick, snare, and hi-hat, like Bernard Purdy, like Harvey Mason, like Steve Gadd, like Dennis, like Billy Cobham. You know, all of these guys just figured it out. Like what I mean is, and you know this, sometimes when you watch drummers, they just use hi-hat for time.
Yeah.
And they don't make it part of the sound or part of the groove. They're concentrating more on 2 and 4, kick and snare, but then the hi-hat is just a thing. And that's always kind of frustrated me, because I'm like, that's important.
Yeah.
So you have to apply it as important to what you're doing musically. Use it as a very important instrument. I mean, the person that, Philly Joe and Max Roach are the two that when you play the hi-hat, it was an instrument unto itself. You would just look at them and just go, jeez, what are they doing with this hi-hat? And then you like Larry Blackman, he took it to another level too. So all of those grooves that you heard was really strong blends between the kick, snare, and hi-hat. And that's what I learned from Ricky. And people say when they hear me groove, it's like, where did you learn to groove like that? I'm like, Ricky Williams, Bernard Davis, guys that I knew that just loved it, and some guys I didn't know.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's so many textures on that hi-hat that, as you said before, there's so many sounds, and you do hear a lot of just too loud for me. You've got to mix it yourself, haven't you? You can't wait, and you know what I'm saying? Of course, you know what I'm saying.
You have to. You got it. Drummers that are watching this, please understand that you have to incorporate the hi-hat as part of the ensemble of drums that you're using, not just something to hold time together with. It can sing right along with your kick and snare. Mainly for me, I didn't play a lot of fusion, nor did I play a lot of jazz. My life, I would say 75% of my life, if not more, was about playing R&B and pop.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely fine. Yes, I can play jazz, but it wasn't the thing that interested me as much as grooving and just getting people to just kind of go. That was my thing, and like when I heard Harvey Mason for the first time, I was so blown away by his depth of field. And then when I heard Steve Gadd, it's just my whole life changed. Those two guys just changed my thinking.
Yeah.
That was the 70s. Fusion was hot. These guys were playing on fusion records. They were playing on pop records. They were playing on R&B records, along with Bernard Purdie. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to be like, the first time I saw Dennis and was like, okay, it's achievable. It's achievable to sound great in all these genres and understand what to do and how to do it. So that's what I wanted to do.
Well, I think you've achieved your aim. I'll be honest, Ralph. I think you've done it, and still doing it. So
I try.
Yeah, but it is so important, and it's a very difficult thing to teach, isn't it? It's something that's in people a lot of the time. I don't know if you find that you either got that or you have it. It's like feel. How do you explain feel? It's a similar thing, I guess.
One aspect that I use is I've picked certain songs that I tell people this is essential listening. And I put on my website, it's like, this is essential songs. You have to listen to Sissy Strut and understand the nuances of Sissy Strut. You got to listen to the classic like Chameleon and understand the nuances of that. You got to listen to Al Green and understand the nuances of all those things. And the element of learning that I've teach is the same thing that I did. Record yourself.
Yeah.
Record yourself, listen back. Two things will happen in the process. One, you are now emulating these masters. You're emulating what they're doing. But then the recording allows you to see what you could be doing better or what you did great. So the great stuff you keep, the stuff that you didn't do, you kind of say, okay, I'm striking that from the list at the moment. And I'm going to fix that, and I'm going to go and record again, and I'm going to try it again. And this is when we were recording with cassettes. There was no cell phones with cameras. There was no, GoPros. I was just using a cassette, my little Panasonic recorder, and I'd pop the tape in, and I'd hit record, and I'd play, and then I'd go back and then pop in another tape or flip it over just so I can be able to have reference and growth to what I was doing. And that helped me train my ears, along with understanding what Ricky Williams didn't have, which was sight. Sight can sometimes be misleading.
Sure.
So I'm in my master classes, I do a short thing where I have everybody close their eyes. And then I tell them to tell me just randomly, you can shout it out, what sounds do you hear?
Mm.
And immediately people start to realize that there are things going on around them that their eyes were visually not letting them hear.
Yeah.
And as soon as they closed their eyes, their ears just went boom, and all of these sounds. I'm like, so I'm telling you that because when you're practicing or when you're playing in a band, sometimes you might want to close your eyes because you'll start to hear the different nuances and know where to apply what you're doing.
Mm.
Very simple, but very, very, very important.
Yeah.
So those that are having trouble grooving, stop looking at the groove and start listening to it.
I like that advice. That's yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Now, normally I'd end on some on a statement like that, but not yet. We've got too much. We've got too much to go.
Okay. All right. So you can cut it into the left.
So look, you turn pro. I mean, what kind of bands are you playing with at this point, Ralph?
My first pro gig was it came by way of someone in my neighborhood. I didn't have a drum set for a long time, but my mother told me that if you save enough money to buy the drums, I'll buy your cymbals for you.
Wow.
So I started getting up every morning on the weekends, and I would go to the local grocery store and I would pack bags. You make, maybe like $40 a day, whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, it was volunteering somewhere was very important, especially if it was a place that had information that I wanted.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I would do is there was an African class in my community center, Bronx River Center. And the drummer, Aziz, and his brother Fareed, they would play. And I would ask them if I could sit in. They would go, absolutely. And they'd give me a drum and I would just, play along. Mm-hmm. and just learning rhythms and styles and just playing in time and just trying to get that whole thing. And then the other thing, I would go down the hall to the library and I would volunteer to just put the books back because that's where all the information was. So volunteering for me was very important. And then there was a music store up on Gun Hill Road. And I volunteered to work there because that's where the drums were. And I would just sweep up or I would go get coffee, whatever they asked me to do. And in the window was a Ludwig Wieselite drum set, clear. And I used to see the set like every day when I would come in. So I asked the owner, I said, is that kit for sale? He said, well, somebody ordered it and they never picked it up. Mm. So he said, I'll sell it to you at cost. So at cost back then might have been $200, $300.
Yeah. Okay.
But for a kid,
yeah, mountain.
You might as well said $3 million. It's the same thing. So I did save the money. He sold me the drum set. My mother made good on her promise. She bought the cymbals. And when I got the drums home, I would practice every day. I would try to get my practice in because my mother came home from work usually by 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And every time she walked through the door, she had a headache. So it was like, oh, I said, "Mom, you just walked in. What are you talking about? I got a headache. Please, stop." So the guy in my building, Wade, we used to call him Puggy, Wade Taylor, drummer, singer, heard me playing and was like, "Yeah, you sounded really good up there." So he says there's an audition for a group, and the drummer left. Tyrone was his name. He left to do something else. Do you want to audition? And I said, yeah. Once again, you got to ask my mother. So she knew him. What she didn't know, that he was the biggest weed dealer in the neighborhood. But she didn't know that. She still doesn't know. I mean, she's gone now, but at the time she didn't know, because if she did, she wouldn't have let me go with it. So he took me to the audition, and I got the gig. and the group is called Music, and the song was called Push Push in the Bush.
Mm.
I don't know if you remember that song.
I don't, I'm afraid.
Push in the bush. Yeah, it was a big disco song back in the 70s. So the tour was in Mexico. It was a 3-week tour of Mexico. First time on a plane, first time with a passport. You know, first time doing a professional gig. I was 19. And it was good. You know, at that point, I'm like, I want to do this all the time. You know, even though I had already decided that I wanted to do it all the time. That really set me on my path to like, okay, this is absolutely 100% doable, because I don't truly believe in plan Bs.
Yeah.
You know, my mother she's from the deep South, and most people in the South during that time, in the 40s and the 50s, they migrated north because that's where the jobs were. And,
Sure.
you know, just, you know, racial tensions and Jim Crow down in Florida, where she came from, in Miami, was big. But if you move north, it was less, especially in New York and places. So that's how she ended up. My father and her ended up in New York, and but that was good for me that she ended up in New York, because that's where all the music was.
Of course.
So, you know, I'm practicing more, and you know, I'm doing the drum corps thing, and I'm teaching now, and you know, I'm an instructor, and I'd get a gig here, get a gig there, and then, you know, I got in the Ricky Williams band, which was great, because he was the one who taught me about the word pocket. I didn't know what it meant. Keep it in the pocket. I had no clue what that meant. So, because in high school, we learned musical terms like the first ending, second ending, coda.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't how it was when you played in a local band.
No.
It was. Okay, first verse, bridge, chorus. Then we go to the B section, and then we're going to vamp here. And I'm going, I don't know what they're talking about. Okay, you know, just keep it in the pocket. Just keep it in the pocket. So I asked the drummer named Tommy Green, who shared the room next door to Ricky. I said, what's that mean? What does keep it in the pocket mean? And he just did like, it means this. That's what it means. It means just keep it in the pocket. Just keep the groove. You got to keep the groove, man. That's what the pocket is. You got to keep that pocket. I said, oh, okay. Okay, I got it. So that's how I learned those terms.
That's an important word.
Oh, it is. It is. Yes. So time went on, and I started getting more gigs, and, you know, people passing my name around. And then the next really big gig that I had came a few years later. Someone heard me, a guy named Tommy Odom, still very close friends, Tommy and I. And there was an audition for Evelyn Champagne King. And at the time, she had a big hit called Love Come Down.
Yep, know it.
So I went down. She was at SIR Studios rehearsing, and I auditioned, and it was like, oh, okay, this guy's good. But then right behind me came the drummer that was working with Dr. Buzzard's original Savannah band. And he was, you know, really handsome, you know, stylish kind of dude. I wasn't that guy. I just wanted to play drums.
Yeah.
So when Evelyn saw him, when she saw him, she was like, oh, I want him in the band. I'm like, so I thought didn't have the gig. Well, he ended up getting another gig that paid more money. Okay. And he left. So that's how I ended up getting called back to get the gig with Evelyn Champagne King.
Oh dear.
You know. So one very important thing for drummers they need to understand: for many years, I was second call. I was not first call. You know, drummers like Buddy Williams was first call. You know, Omar Hakim was first call. Lenny White was first call. All of those guys were first call for most stuff.
Sure.
You know, Alan Schwartzberg, first call. And then you had all the really high upper echelon Purdy's and Gads and those guys, you know. So I was okay with getting the gigs. You know, even if a drummer was calling me to sub for him, or, you know, the person that they wanted, they couldn't get, So it never deterred me from like, oh, I'm never getting the first call. My ego didn't need that. What I wanted to do was just play.
Yeah.
But then over time, I started getting calls.
Yeah.
You know, I started getting that, oh, call Ralph. And, you know, then some people go, who's Ralph? And, you know, that's how it happened. And that's fine. You know, it will come if you just work at it.
It's a natural progression. And the more you're seen and the more
Right.
And I guess it's been the same for everybody over the years, hasn't it? You know, you don't start off at the top of the list.
Well, like for some guys do. Like Omar was getting gigs like crazy. Every time I turned around and I looked in the Village Voice, Omar Hakim's name was there. Omar Hakim. And what was so odd, when I was in drum corps, there was a guy that I marched with named Omar Hakim. Okay. So I was thinking, I didn't know Omar played traps. I didn't know he was a drummer like that. I just thought he played snare. But it wasn't the same.
Oh, right. Okay.
Omar, it wasn't the same Omar Hakim. When I finally met Omar, I was like, that's not Omar. That's not the guy I know.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, deservingly so. Omar got, you know, a lot of gigs. He was a teenage blazer. You know, he really doing his thing. Him and Lenny, they were out there really killing the scene. Yeah. So I get it. Buddy Williams, you know, I'm just glad to say that, you know, I have a great relationship with Omar, and I have a great relationship with Buddy. I don't know Lenny as well. I would love to, but the thing that drummers need to understand is it's not about the ego. It's always about the music. And if you remember that, you will continuously excel and grow. But you will get in your own way when you start worrying about the ego part. Like, why am I not getting this gig? Or why did he get that gig? You know, no, that's not what it is. What it is that if someone got a gig, maybe it's because the gig was for them. But that doesn't mean that you should be mad at what happened or what didn't happen.
Of course.
You know, it's always about the music. If you respect the music first, then people will start to hear your passion and your respect for the music. And they will then start to call you. But if you're playing to be flashy and just being seen, that will come forth as well. And you probably will get less because you're not playing for the music. You're playing for yourself.
People see through this stuff, don't they? They do. It's
a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and now at the age that I am, I'm more vocal about it. You know, I would talk about it, but now because I know it's a proven idea and ideal as far as growing, I tell young drummers it has nothing to do with you.
Sure.
If you get that point and understand that it's all about the song you're playing and the people that you're playing with, you'll work all the time.
Yeah.
You don't have to have, you know, a gazillion chops and, you know, listen, I have so much love and respect for the chop masters. I love them to death. But there's a choice that I made, and it was all about just grooving and making people smile. That was my choice. When I saw Dennis and what he did with P-Funk All-Stars, I'm like, the way he had those people jumping, I'm like, the way Clyde Stubblefield had those people jumping, that was good enough for me. Yep. You know, one of the statements that I had on my website before was something that James Brown said to Clive. He said, I don't need all that stuff. I just need you to play that groove. Just play that groove. And that stuck with me because, you know, it's the relationship. When I played with D'Angelo, it was about accessing that groove the way D'Angelo wanted it for his music that made people go, okay, I'm feeling this. I like what's going on. So
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to ask about that. So
about D'Angelo?
Yeah. That's a nice gig, right?
Let me tell you, I didn't remember the first time I met D'Angelo, but he remembered meeting me at the Apollo Theater. He was a kid and his name was Michael. He wasn't D'Angelo at the time.
Sure.
And he said he really liked the way I played, and he said he never forgot it. And it's so funny how things happen. one of my good friends was the A&R manager, A&R director for EMI Records. And he called me up and he said, could you come to the office? His name is Gary Harris, the late Gary Harris. What a great guy. And he said, I want you to hear something. So I go up to his office and he puts on D'Angelo's demo.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yo, this dude is like killing it. He sounds like Prince and Al Green, like all mixed into one. And I asked him, I said, who's playing on this? He said, he's playing everything. I'm like, really? And all the back, everything was him. Mm. So I said, you're signing this kid, right? He said, yeah, I'm absolutely going to sign this guy. Then a few months go by and my really, really close friend and brother, Bob Power, who's an engineer, worked a lot with Tribe Called Quest. He did a lot of stuff, like Low End Theory record, he did that. Calls me up and says, listen, there's this new artist that I'm going to be producing. I want you to play some stuff on it. You and Will Lee, I want you to play on it.
Amazing.
So I said, fine. So we went in the studio, we rehearsed the tracks, and then I went in and played on the tracks. Mm-hmm. And when the guy walked in, I'm like, who is this? And then it all hit me. It all came together. I'm like, that's the guy. That's the kid that I heard. That's that. And at the time, now he's D'Angelo. Now he's got a name and he's got a direction that he's going in. And we became fast friends. Mm. So it went from me playing on his record to me doing his first tour.
Yeah, sure.
And I actually quit. Ah. And I quit because I had a production company. Mm-hmm. In New York, and we had a group that we were producing on Island 4th and Broadway records. But, that's the story I told him. And the truth is that I hated his manager. Right. Like, I hated him. He was just, I couldn't be around the guy, and I that's why I left, because if I didn't leave, you probably wouldn't be talking to me right now.
It was that bad.
Yeah, it was that bad. And wow. And D'Angelo, he finally understood and got away from him. But that's the real reason why I left. And the drummer that ultimately replaced me was there was a couple of drummers that came in that D'Angelo didn't like their feel. And then he met Questlove. And Questlove ended up being the guy that he did some additional work with. So it's just kind of funny how life is, because at that point, I ended up staying at the Apollo and doing a lot of great stuff there with Ray Chu. Who's the musical director for Dancing with the Stars.
Okay, gotcha. Can I ask, how was it working with Will Lee?
It was good. Will is to me somewhat of a genius when it comes to his playing. He when you work with him, he wants to get it done and he wants to keep it going. It's almost like when you watch Will Lee, it's like he's so hyper and up all the time, but his playing is always like really good and spot on. And he's such a good person. Yeah, he really is a great guy. So it was nice. I had a chance to actually play with Will a couple of times, but the most memorable was working with him with D'Angelo. And I got called by Paul Schaefer to do the show, David Letterman.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
So what happened is Anton Fig's father had passed away, so he had to fly back to South Africa. Mm-hmm. So Paul said he had seen me and heard me on the Apollo and said, "Would you like to come in for a couple of days?" Sure. And I said, I did two shows, and it was amazing working with Will. And,
that must be a pressure gig.
A lot of pressure. What people didn't realize, if you go to YouTube and you pull up the David Letterman theme, it sounds pretty seamless when you hear it. but there's 5 different time signatures in that theme.
Yeah.
It is. I think I probably still have the score over in my favorite score drawer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it has, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot to play that theme, you know. And then he pulled out some Al Green to do that night. He pulled out some Jimi Hendrix.
Mm.
So that's all the stuff that we did that night. So it was good. It was nice. It was nice to do that gig with Paul in the band. It was fun.
Sure. Nice to say you've
Alicia
done it as
Collins.
well. You know, it's
Yeah,
nice gig.
yeah.
You know, you have some amazing names on your CV. I mean, Bono, Mary J. Blige. I mean, was that recording or was that live, Ralph?
Mary J. was at the Apollo. I played with a lot of people that came through the Apollo.
Sure.
You know, some of them would bring like Tina Marie came through, and I was really excited about playing with Tina, but she brought her drummer. I was like, damn, man, I wanted to play with that, but I worked there with John Legend, a lot of people, a lot of folks. We played behind as Ray June and crew for these acts, and it was great.
Yeah,
you know, some of it is like it would have never happened if I wasn't at the Apollo.
Yeah. So how would a night at the Apollo work? Would it be? Would you get like the rehearsal in the afternoon and straight into the show in the evening? How would it work?
Well, there's 2 Apollos, if you will, and
Okay.
I'll explain what I mean.
Sure.
There's a Wednesday night Apollo, that the amateur night that's been going on for decades.
Yeah.
And then there's the TV show Apollo. Okay. Now, on the Wednesday night Apollo, call is 3:00. You come in, you rehearse the groups. It's pretty standard rehearsal. You read the charts down, and then you go on your break, and then you do the show. Okay, that's basically what it is. If there was a guest artist, we would rehearse with the guest artist after we rehearsed with the amateurs, and then we would do the show at 7:30, and it was all good. Now, the TV show was hell because we would have to arrive like at 5:00 in the morning.
Oh, right.
And the Apollo has a sound stage upstairs, and all of the contestants would be on the sound stage. And Ray Chu, very accomplished musical director and very, very, very organized person. And it was only 4 of us at the time when we first started doing the Apollo TV show. But we would have to tape the entire season run, which was 11 shows in 4 days.
Oh, right. Okay. Full on.
Yeah. So sometimes we would come at 5 in the morning, and sometimes we're not leaving until 11, 12 o'clock at night. Then we had to turn around and do that all again and make it look like, or make it sound like and look like we are refreshed and ready to go.
Different week. Yeah.
Yeah. And, we change our clothes. And, in the beginning stages, I went out and got, wardrobe for the band. I mean, it was, there wasn't like a big budget, but the good thing is that we knew that we were very fortunate to have this position.
Sure.
And we all took it very, very, very seriously. So, at different times when we were under the gun, Ray would throw responsibilities out to everyone in the band. Like, for example, if there was a drum loop that was needed, he would go, Ralph, do the drum loop, or Artie, you program this,
Sure.
And we would just, we would all get it done. It was like being in the trenches. You learned a lot, and if you got through that, you could do anything. And it's very true.
Yeah.
Between that and drum corps, I was prepared for absolutely anything.
Oh, you paid your dues, haven't you? You really have. You've.
I paid dues for about 20 other drummers too. So yeah. I mean, I could give them some dues.
But even from working to earn your kit and I think it all counts to your career and to your character. It's got, and your work ethic. It all counts towards it, doesn't it? It really does. Makes a difference.
It's extremely, extremely important that you don't take any gig for granted at any time. anywhere. You know, if you get called for a gig, you're supposed to, every musician, play that gig with the same amount of professionalism, passion, love, veracity, and soul. If there were two people, or you were playing at Glastonbury, it's the same thing. It doesn't change because there's only two people out there tonight.
Yeah.
No, it's very important to understand that thing. I used to work with a bass player. I won't tell you what his name is, but we worked in a local band, and he hated the musical director. It was and honestly, the guy was a piano player, and he wasn't that great. You know, we're doing local gigs. You know, we're doing some hits around town, and he is a really accomplished bass player. He used to work with some really big Brazilian bands. You know, and he could absolutely play. But every time we were going to bandstand, it was like, "Hey, how you doing?" He would go like this, "Hey, what's up?" And then he would start playing, and anytime the keyboard player would hit a bad note, he would go, "Oh, this guy." And on a break one time, I said, "Dude, if you really don't like it, don't come. But you're draining me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm supposed to be locking with you so we can hold this whole bottom together, and you're killing me, man." You know, you're making all these faces and sounds, and it's like, dude, then why'd you take the gig?
All negative, yeah.
Yeah, so for me, okay, we all knew the guy wasn't that great of a player, but we all definitely had consistent work with him. And there were other gigs that we were doing that were more musically satisfying.
Sure.
You know, so my thing is don't disrespect the song because you got an attitude with this guy and he's not up to your professional level. I get it, but we're here now.
Yeah.
You know, you accepted the role. Now let's get it in. Let's get it on.
Yeah. Wise words. So look, you know, you have, for me, one of the most fun, great gigs that money could ever buy. If you could buy a gig, you're in it. You know, it's like Chic is like a party, isn't it? Like from visually, the sound, an incredible gig. How did it come about, Ralph?
I always wanted to play for Nile Rodgers and Chic from the first time. I used to be a serious roller skater. Yeah. And at the time in the 70s, there were roller skating rings everywhere. And I'm in the roller skating ring and this song comes on. It goes, 1, 2, freak out. And the energy level inside the roller skating ring just went to another level because everybody knew this song. It packed the floor. And I asked somebody, I said, "What's the name of this song?" They said, "Oh, it's called Freak Out." And I said, "Who is it?" It says it's a group called Chic. I'm like, I didn't know who they were. And the truth of the matter is the song is called The Freak, but the person just said Freak Out.
Yeah.
So I started to want to know more about who this group is and started listening to not only what they were doing, but then the productions that they were doing.
Sure.
And I'm like, these dudes are coming from another place. I mean, they're doing dance music, but it's very sophisticated, funky grooves. Yeah. You know, and Tony Thompson was laying it down like with Bernard, like crazy. Yeah. So years went by, the group kind of disbanded, and then I heard through the grapevine that they were having auditions for Chic. So I'm trying to find out how can I get to this audition. But what I found out later on, that it was more of a publicity hype, and they had already had a band, and Omar was the chosen drummer.
Oh, right. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, I've got no chance of getting in there. Then years later, Omar's still like in the band, but I got called to do a gig at the Marriott for a charity event, and they're honoring Nile Rodgers. This was after Bernard passed away. Yes. So I'm like, oh snap, Nile's going to be in the audience. I gotta like get my best playing on so he can hear me. And then I met Silva, who was a singer at the time, Silva Logan Sharp. And she had written a tribute to Nile, so it was a chance to like get closer to him I felt like the jilted lover because he never paid a single minute of attention to me. You know, no matter how great I played, it just wasn't on his radar. And I'm like, man. So I don't know how much longer it was. Maybe 4 months later, I'm at my daughter's school. She's in private school up in White Plains, and she's young. She couldn't have been no older than 4 or 5 at the time.
Sure.
And I get a phone call while she's in a play, and it's Nathaniel Townsley.
Right.
Nathaniel calls me, and I'm like, if Nathaniel's calling me, it's got to be about work. So I get up, I excuse myself, I go in the lobby, and he says, "Hey man, how you doing?" I said, "I'm good." He says, "Listen, I've been playing with Nile Rodgers and Chic, and I can't do a gig because I'm working with Joe Zawinul. Can you do the gig?" And I already knew if there was something else I was doing, I was going to get a sub to do my gig if I was working. But I told him, yes, I could do it. So they sent me the Chic Live in Montrose video.
Yeah.
And but what I usually do in situations like that, I listen to what they sent to me, but I also listen to all of the live versions as well.
Yeah.
And then I try to find groove-wise the happy medium between both. So the two drummers that I'm listening to is Tony Thompson and Omar Hakim. So it's like, right. So I'm like, okay, this is good. So I write my charts for every song.
Mm-hmm.
I rehearse it at home. I rehearse it because I understand that Nile wants to have a rehearsal just to basically see what's going on. So I'm like, good, this is a great thing. So at the time, the bass player was not Jerry Barnes, it was Barry Johnson.
Right. Okay.
From he used to play with Lenny White 29.
Sure.
So we go down to SIR. It's just me and Barry that I remember. And I set up. Nile comes in. He says, "Let's take the medley." Right. And we jump right to the medley. I flip my pages. I get to the medley. We play the medley. Nile packs up his guitar and leaves. And I'm like, I'm one to ask questions. I'm like, "Excuse me, Nile, is everything okay?" He said, "Yeah, it's fine. I'll see you in Switzerland." and we flew. First gig was in Gstaad. That's not the right pronunciation, but I think it's Gstaad.
Right. Okay.
And it's for it's a private party. And I play the gig. At the end of the gig, Silva comes over to me and says, "Nile really loved the way you played because no one's actually come in here and played the show from beginning to end perfectly."
Sure.
And would you like the gig?
Without rehearsal, you've rehearsed the medley and that is it.
So I'm crapping bricks back here because I don't want to make any mistakes because So she says he wants to know if you would like the gig, and the first thing I said was, "Well, isn't it Nathaniel Townsley's gig?" And they said, "Not exactly. He was kind of the interim drummer before we found someone that we wanted to actually have in the chair." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." So that's how I ended up getting the gig with Nile Rodgers and Chic. Now, right now, it's been over 15 years, right? Working with Nile is Nile is so much fun to be around. He's a great guy. He's very intelligent, extremely funny, very funny, and kind, almost to a fault. Yeah. He loves his band. He now understands the band concept. A band is a band.
Yeah.
Whether you're the leader or not, it's a band. And what you're seeing on stage is people that really like each other a lot.
Sure.
What you're not seeing on stage is the crew that is part of the band that we're all in a chat room in WhatsApp, all of us.
Yeah, sure.
So it's truly that definition of what we all thought in our minds as what a band should be.
Yeah.
It's the camaraderie, it's the love, it's the respect, it's the It's the going through the tough times together, going through the good times together, banding together as a band, like when we're taking trips. It's a great situation to be in. So when you see us on stage, that joy and those smiles are truly not pretentious. It's actually how we feel. We really enjoy it. We talk to each other every day. Literally every day I'm on my phone talking to somebody from the band. If it's someone's birthday, this is how it is. Just say, like just the other day was our monitor guy who's from Italy. His name is Marco. It was his birthday. Now, everybody, the administrative staff, the attorney, the Nile, the manager Merck, everyone chimes in to wish Marco a happy birthday.
Wow.
If the manager's daughter has a birthday, we all chime in. With this, it's a very close-knit, fun band. I mean, it's everything that any musician would want. There's no animosities between people, and if there is, we work it out.
Yeah.
We talk about things. There's been tough conversations about things, but we've all worked it out. I have brothers and sisters in Chic, really, and I'm not saying that because you're interviewing me. I'm saying it because it's absolutely true.
Yeah, it's a fact.
Yeah, it is, and you can trust me when you see us on stage. We're literally having the best time of our lives at that moment. We're having a ball.
It's a joyful,
and I love.
It's a joyful thing to see. It's a party, isn't it? It is.
Totally. We, right now because of COVID, the thing is, just waiting until that day that we can all see each other. I know it's going to be beyond emotional. I know that. I mean, when you know that you get, like, we saw each other. We did we did a show for BBC for New Year's.
Yeah.
So we saw each other, like, maybe it was pre-recorded, and we couldn't hug each other. We had to kind of go, "Hey, how you doing over there?" And we've elbow bumped or we foot bumped, but it wasn't. It was like, okay, we're together, but we're not. It's almost like a hologram.
Yeah. No.
But I know the day that we can all actually come together and be together, it's just going to be a mess. I know it is. It's going to be an absolute, mess. We all have our favorites that we just are close to. One of the closest people, I'm really close to Jerry, and I'm super, super close to Kimberly Davis. I brought her into the organization. But Richard Hilton and I are super, super close. We have heart to heart, conversations to the point that, it's seriously emotional between me and Richard. I love his sons. I love his wife, and he loves my family as well. So, yes, I have to say I'm a lucky guy to be in this particular band.
That's a dream gig. Dream gig. It's as simple as that. And as rhythm sections go, that's got to be a lot of fun to, it's just so tight. It's ridiculous. Yourself, Jerry, Nile. I mean, Nile must be a joy to play with as a drummer. It's just.
This is what happens, and you'll see it. Nile is all about playing inside the groove. Jerry, what it is that we are all hardcore local band dudes for years. He was in the Big Apple band, Nile, and Jerry was in his group was called Jerice. I cannot remember the name of the group he was in with his sister.
Sure.
And it was all traveling and being together and learning how to groove together. And I was in my band Indigo in New York. And so we're band people. We're band guys. So when we're grooving, we're trying to get that club, local pocket all together, Nile will turn around and just, he'll look at me and Jerry, and I'm looking at Jerry, and I'd laugh about it in my master classes. I said, if you go and look at some of the tapes, Jerry and I are looking at each other like we're in a bromance, I always go, call me, so, but that's how we want it to be. We want it to be so tight that there's no denying the groove or the sound, and it's respect for each other's positions. Nobody's trying to, play too much. Jerry has been given license, if you will.
Yeah.
You just kind of do things inside the groove. And Nile and I will hold it down. We don't fight against them. We don't try to like accentuate it with something. We just hold it down, which, sounds like if you're painting a picture, it just sounds like Jerry just kind of did a little abstract stroke inside that picture. And we stand back, we go, oh, that was nice. That was perfect. That was the right stroke for that canvas.
It's more subtle. It's more subtle when the whole band doesn't go with it and make it an obvious thing. And, I like that.
To me, to analyze what you're hearing is a band, horns included, of producers that all are respecting the music based on the fact that they know what they need to do to make this right. So it kind of transcends a little bit past just kind of being a musician in that spot, but producing something for the sum of the parts.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what some of the greatest bands that you'll hear, that's kind of what you're hearing. You're hearing producers.
Yeah.
That are trying to just cohesively find their place in this painting. And I always say that this is a canvas. Every song is a new canvas.
Yeah. And
every song we have to find the right paintbrush and the right colors that when it's all done and we stand back, we go, oh, that's gorgeous. That's really nice. That's what I'm trying to do when I'm playing. It's not about, a bunch of stuff. It's stuff that's important.
Yeah. And such great songs as well. Everybody Dance, for example, the intro on that, it's just, I'm talking Glastonbury now. I remember when you did, was it the Legend spot? Was it 2017 when you did the Sunday afternoon?
17.
That, I see a lot of bands. I always watch Glastonbury. I've never been, I've been a long, long time ago, and I watch lots of bands and I go, yeah, they're all right. But to get you out the chair and it's like, yes, this is, I've seen Stevie Wonder did it. He did it, no question. But not many others. But Chic is just, I don't know. I don't dance. I would never dance. But put me in front of Chic and I'll dance.
Well, and like I said, there's band members that you don't see. Our monitor guy makes it easy so you're not concentrating on trying to hear yourself.
Sure.
Our front of the house guy, we've had 3. Johnny was sound man for a long time. Then we've had 2 others, and now we have a gentleman named Troy who's very good. But it's all, we don't look at them as just the sound guys. They're part of the band. They're trying to get all of the nuances that they're trying to make it all sound so great. That it's seamless. It's just a seamless production throughout our technical crew. And that's why I call them, they're in the band. You just don't see them. Because they can make or break you, So the party happens because we have, audio visuals that are good. We have sounds that's just right. We have folks that really care about every single note they sing and play.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. And I'm honored to be there. I'm serious. It's it was a tough departure from the Apollo. It really was for me. But there was some things that just couldn't be dealt with, and I decided to make the move over to Nile Rodgers and Chic.
You have obviously a really important role as the drummer, holding all that down. And of course the backing vocals and vocals, But you also seem to MC the whole thing as well. You know, I mean, you've got a lot going on there, haven't you? You're a really integral part of that.
Well, yeah. It's built to that point where we have this performance piece that's actually what people are experiencing. It's not just it's not just us playing, but it's a performance piece. And we all understand what our roles are in that performance piece. Like me emceeing is part of the performance and stuff that I learned by just growing up in the beginning and the midst of hip hop in New York City and watching some of the dopest MCs make the crowd go crazy.
Sure.
For me, I'm just channeling Dougie Fresh. That's how I feel inside when I'm doing it. It's not about me. It's about the audience and thinking of how I've played with Dougie Fresh and watched him make tens of thousands of people lose their minds.
Yeah.
So I just get that kind of energy going that he knows how to do. Some of the things that I've done is fun. Like in the beginning of Let's Dance, we have this. Al introduces me, and I do this thing like if we're Glastonbury.
Yeah.
This thing that I'll do, it goes zoom boom 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 boom, and I go Glastonbury, like very soft, and the crowd will go yeah, and I'm going no, we need to do that again, and then I go boom 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 Glastonbury, and they go ah. So by the fourth time, the goal is to build the audience to this frenzy. So now by the time we start the song, it's the only other place that you can go is you're going to explode in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like that's the goal. So it's all about the show. It's all about
stagecraft, isn't it? It's stagecraft.
Yes. Yeah. It works well together. We all work well together. Nile, we've worked out our shtick together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's fun to work with Nile doing our shtick because okay. So we opened for Cher. This is our fourth tour before COVID. And people that are Cher fans are devoted Cher fans to the point. Like, so here we are opening. There's not a lot of Chic fans there. They just want to get to Cher. And we kind of can see it when we're playing. And we're fine with it. Like we'll start the show and the show is going on. Every single time without fail. Every single time without fail. And this is for more of an American audience.
Yeah.
By the time Kimberly Davis starts singing I Want Your Love, by the time we have finished that song, guaranteed people have lost their complete minds. And like, okay, what else you got? And then we go into the medley and they go, oh my God. You know what I mean? And then by the time we get to Let's Dance, it's like, it's pandemonium. And we see the build, we see the relationship start that was kind of coy to go, oh, this is the perfect opening act. That's the reason why we've actually done the Cher tour 4 times in a row. She never has done that before, ever. So it's great.
You'd be a brave band to take Chic out as your opening act because you got to have a serious game upping to I know it's not a competition, but you need to put a show on after that.
No, but you listen, we've heard at different shows that we've done, we've heard stuff backstage like, who wants to go on after that? I mean, we've heard that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But for us, our goal is to whoever the main act is, like throughout our entire show, especially like going back to Cher, the entire time that we're doing the show, we're hyping the audience and talking about Cher.
Yeah, sure.
Like, that get ready for Cher because it's about this. So we're that band that knows how to be an opening band. We're not trying to outshine, Cher, which is impossible because it's Cher. But the point is, there's an accentuation that happens because of who we are.
Mm.
In most situations, like the Glastonbury 2017, dude, we went on after freaking Barry Gibb.
Yeah.
You know, that was like, what? Barry freaking Gibb? And he, you know, he was amazing. But except the two acts coming like that, whoever lined it up that way, it worked out because we don't come out to like, oh, we're gonna destroy everybody. That's not our thinking. Our thinking is no, we're gonna make the people go crazy, not we're gonna kill the band. No, they're band members and players just like us.
Sure.
So that's not our thinking. Our thinking is no, they're part of a musical family and we respect them, and we're all gonna go out there for the purpose of making the audience sound feel great, and then we're gonna sound as good as we can. That's our feeling.
What memories do you have of the last Glastonbury, Ralph? Because I remember watching it and I was just, I was almost overcome with joy. It was just like,
Okay, I'm going to lean in for this one because I was on the side of the stage. You know, it was a beautiful day.
Yeah.
The sun was shining. There was 220,000 people out there that day. We were on the main stage. We're backstage. Barry Gibb is there. And you know, who doesn't love Barry Gibb? You know, you got to be from another planet if you don't love that guy. And the band, we're talking to the guys in the band, and it's great. He goes out. We're on the side of the stage. He does an amazing, amazing show. I mean, amazing. I haven't gotten nervous in, I would have to say, decades. You know, my feeling when I'm performing is that I embrace everyone. I used to get very nervous when I first started out. It was bad. I would get the worst case of gas that you wouldn't believe. but I'd learned to make the audience part of my family, like people I knew. So the connection was there, which helped me to be able to talk in front of large audiences without getting nervous.
Yeah. But
this particular day, we just took pictures backstage with Barry and the band. The band is dressed. You know, we got, 5 minutes of stage. We get the call, and then we start heading towards the side of the stage. And I'm like, oh man, this is great. The weather's great. Everything is perfect. And I didn't realize how many people were actually out there. I didn't. So when I walked up on the stage like I normally do, I go to the drums and I looked out into the audience, and what actually got the nerves going, like it's almost like I had an anxiety attack for some reason, was the fact that I looked out in the audience and it went out and then it went up over the hill and then it disappeared. And I was like, and then for some reason, the cameras that were on the drums all of a sudden felt like big eyes just looking at me.
Yeah.
And I just like, I had to put my head down for a minute and I could feel like the nervousness come. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Don't get nervous. And I swear to you, I looked over at Jerry and it all went away.
Yeah.
As soon as I looked at Jerry, it just disappeared. And I sat down and we played one of the most amazing shows we've ever done.
Really?
With that, yeah, it was. We still talk about Glastonbury because it was one of, we've done some great shows.
Sure.
But that show right there was crazy.
You set that place on fire, didn't we?
Yeah, we had fun. We had a lot of fun. We had a great time, and the audiences in Europe and UK have always been very kind to us. Very beautiful.
Tell me, how long does it take to come down from doing a gig like that? I mean, obviously, I've never been anywhere near like that, not the stage anyway. How long? You must be kind of just buzzing about that,
To be honest, it's all feeling great, and we're talking about the show after the show, different things we might have seen audience, different things that might have happened on stage that no one ever will know that happened.
Sure.
And then by the time we get on the bus, we are so drained that most times there's silence.
Yeah.
Like we're just like zenning out at that point. Then we might get back to the hotel.
Sure.
we might get together, you know, go downstairs and have something to drink, or we might have something to eat. But I think by the time we get to the buses, when things kind of go like this, it's like when we're leaving. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But it is, I'm a lucky guy. I mean, out of all the bands, I'm in one of the most fun and the most, you know, loved. You know, and I love being there.
Long may it continue. Look, Ralph, thank you so much for giving your time. I really, I told you I'd take maybe 30, 40 minutes of your time. I've taken at least an hour and a half. So, you know, I do.
Dude, listen, Maddie, you're a great interviewer.
Oh, well, that's very kind.
And I thank you for having me. This is really cool.
The pleasure was all mine, Ralph. Thank you so much for doing it. And look, let's, you know, all the very best for your cookies and all your other ventures. And let's hope we see you back out with Chic sometime very, very soon.
Thank you. I want to thank Nick Gosling for hooking me up with this. Nick is my brother.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick, my man.
And thank you, Steve, as well. Thank you. Yes, appreciated it. Thank you, Ralph. Take care, my friend.
Take care, buddy.